Only one of them reached the car. That is not a figure of speech, and it is not me building drama. It is the whole story. 4 people walked out onto a trail in Saguaro on a beautiful morning, and a short time later, only one of them was sitting inside a vehicle with the doors shut, and the other 3 were not. And the entire difference between the one who lived and the 3 who did not was measured in seconds, and in yards, and in one piece of knowledge that I had handed them for free at the trailhead 2 hours earlier. I had told them exactly what to do if this happened. I watched them smile at me while I said it, and one of them said the thing people always say, standing right there in front of the warning, and he looked at it and he said, "It is just bees." This is one of those stories. Welcome back to Doomed Departures. What you are about to hear is a composite. The family is invented, built from the same profile of ordinary, decent people I warn every week, most of whom listen. No real person is named, and every person in it is an adult. I'm going to call myself Rosa, and the 4 of them, a woman named Denise, her husband Paul, and her mother and father, an older couple I will call Ada and Frank. This is a dramatization. The park is real, the bees are real, and the specific way an animal most people have swatted 1,000 times can take 3 lives in a couple of minutes is very real. I have been a ranger at Saguaro a long time, and I need to tell you about these bees because almost everything the average person believes about them is wrong, and the wrongness is the whole danger. We have Africanized honeybees here. People call them killer bees. And the name is dramatic and also unhelpfully makes people picture some giant mutant insect, which is exactly the wrong picture. They are not big, they are not monsters, they look like ordinary honeybees. So much like ordinary honeybees that you and I cannot tell them apart by looking. And that is the first problem, because it means you never know which kind you are dealing with until it is far too late to matter. They arrived in this part of the country a few decades ago, and they have spread through the whole Sonoran desert, and they nest in exactly the places you would walk past without a thought. A hollow in a saguaro, a crack in the rocks, an old mine opening, a culvert, a hole in the ground, an abandoned bit of structure. There does not have to be anything visible. You can be standing 10 feet from a hive of tens of thousands of them and see nothing at all. And they are not aggressive the way people imagine, out looking for someone to attack. They are not. A single bee out foraging on a flower will not bother you any more than any other bee. And most of the time you can walk through this whole park and never have a problem, because most of the time you never get close enough to a hive to matter. They are defensive, not offensive, and there is a real difference. But their idea of defense, of what counts as too close, of how hard to respond, is turned up to a level that has no relationship to what you grew up with. To them, a person walking by is not a person. It is a bear. It is the thing that raids hives, and their whole survival over a very long and hard history has depended on driving that thing off with overwhelming force. And they do not know that you meant no harm, and they cannot be reasoned with, and they do not stop when you are sorry. And here is what makes them different, the one thing you must understand, because it is the only thing that matters. It is not that their sting is worse. One sting from one of these is about the same as one sting from the gentle honeybee in your garden. The difference is everything else. They defend their hive far more aggressively, in vastly greater numbers, over a much larger distance and for a much longer time. Disturb an ordinary hive and a few bees see you off. Disturb one of these and hundreds or thousands come all at once, and they do not give up when you back away, and they will chase you. They will chase you a quarter mile. They will chase you farther. And the danger is not any single sting. The danger is the sheer arithmetic of hundreds or 1,000 of them, because enough stings, enough venom all at once will bring down a healthy adult who is not allergic to anything at all. It is not an allergy that kills people out here. It is the number. So the entire game, the whole of your survival, if this ever happens to you, comes down to one thing, and I told it to Denise and Paul and Ada and Frank at the trailhead that morning, as plainly as I have ever told anyone anything. If the bees come, you run. You run in a straight line as fast as you can, and you do not stop, and you get to shelter, a building or a car, and you shut yourself inside. And while you run, you do not swat, because swatting and flailing only tells them where you are and makes it worse. You pull your shirt up over your face if you can, to protect your eyes and your breathing, and you keep running. because they will follow, and you do not stop running until you are inside with the door closed or you are certain you are clear, which is much farther than you think. Let me tell you why each part of that matters, because the reasons are what make it stick. You run in a straight line because they follow the shortest path to you, and you want every second putting distance between you and the hive. You do not stop at water, and I say this because the movies have taught people to dive into a pond, and it does not work. The bees simply wait above the surface for you to come up for air, and you will. You cover your face because the stings that actually threaten your life fastest are the ones around your eyes, your nose, your mouth, your airway, and because a person who can still see and still breathe can still run. And you keep going far past the point where you think you are clear, because these bees pursue a distance that would astonish you, and people die who stop too soon, who thought 100 yards was safe when it was not. That is it. That is the whole survival plan, and it is not complicated, and it works, and it has to be known before it happens, because there is no time to figure it out once it starts. I told them all of it. And Frank, the father, a good-natured man in his early 70s by the look of him, smiled at me and glanced at the sign and said, "It is just bees." Not unkindly, he was not a rude man. He said it the way a whole generation of people say it. People who grew up getting stung a few times every summer and swatting bees off a picnic table and never once thinking of them as a thing that could kill you. In his entire life, a bee had never been anything but a minor annoyance, and the word just carried all of that history, and none of it applied to what was nesting out on that trail. That is the specific cruelty of this animal, more than almost any other. With a mountain lion or a rattlesnake, at least people arrive with some fear, some respect, some instinct to be careful, because the culture has taught them those things are dangerous. Nobody arrives afraid of a bee. We have all made peace with bees. We shoo them off our food, we let them land on us at a barbecue, we teach children they are friendly little helpers, and all of that is true of the bee you know. But it built in every one of us a deep, unquestioned certainty that a bee is a small thing, and that certainty walks out onto the trail with us, and it is dead wrong about the bee that lives out here. And there is no fear underneath it to slow us down, because who is afraid of a bee? Let me tell you who they were, because it matters for what happened. Denise was in her 40s, fit, active. Paul, her husband, about the same, strong, and Ada and Frank were older, in their 70s, and they moved like people in their 70s move, which is to say fine and slow. This was a family trip, the four of them, the kind of easy desert morning people plan for months, and there was nothing careless about it. You could see the care in every part of it. They had good water, more than enough. They had hats and sunscreen. They had planned it for the cooler part of the day. Frank had a folded park map in his pocket. Ada had snacks for everyone. They were the kind of family that checks on each other, that walks at the pace of the slowest so no one is left behind, that had clearly done 100 careful trips together and come home from everyone. They stayed on the trail. They did everything right except carry in their heads the one piece of knowledge that the day was about to demand of them, because they had heard it and smiled and let it slide off since it was just bees. They were maybe a mile out on open trail when it happened, and it happened the way it almost always does, which is that they never saw it coming. Nobody reaches into a hive. What happens is you get close, closer than you know, to a nest you cannot see, and something sets it off. A vibration, a footfall, a voice, a shadow, and the air simply comes alive. One moment it is a quiet desert morning. The next there is a sound like the whole world buzzing and a dark haze coming up off the rocks, and it is on you before your mind has even finished asking what it is. That is the hinge of this, and it is a terrible one, because it is not a decision. There was no reckless choice, no moment where they should have turned back. They walked on the trail where they were allowed to be, past a hole in the rocks they never noticed, and the desert detonated. The only choice they got, the only one, was what they did in the 3 or 4 seconds after. I want to sit on that because people always want to find the mistake, the reckless thing, the moment where the victims did something dumb that they themselves would never do, because finding it lets them feel safe. There is no such moment here. They did not climb toward a hive for a photo. They did not bang on a nest or throw a rock or ignore a swarm already in the air. They walked down a legal trail at a reasonable pace on a nice morning, and a nest they had no way to see went off as they passed. It could have been anyone. It could have been me. The trail did not single them out. The only thing that was ever going to separate the people who lived from the people who did not on that particular morning was already decided, and it had been decided 2 hours before at a sign by how seriously each of them took a warning about something as small as a bee. And this is where knowing beats not knowing, where the warning I gave them was worth all 4 of their lives and they had let it go. Because the human instinct, the deep one, the one everybody has who has not been trained out of it, is exactly wrong. When bees are on you, your body wants to swat, to flail, to bat them away from your face, to slap at your arms, to spin and fight the air. Every instinct screams to make them stop right now with your hands. And all of that, every bit of it, is the worst thing you can do because it does not stop a single bee and it broadcasts your exact location and it keeps you standing in the killing zone instead of leaving it. The people who die swatting, the people who live run. Let me ask you something because this one is not really about bees. When was the last time your first instinct in a sudden crisis was the wrong one? The one that feels like doing something but actually just keeps you in the danger longer? Tell me below, because that is the whole hinge of this. In an emergency, you do not rise to the occasion. You fall back on what you already know cold, and if the right thing was never made automatic, your body will reach for the wrong thing every time, and it will feel completely right while it kills you. What I have pieced together from Denise, who is the one who lived and who told me in pieces over a long, hard hour, is this. Paul, her husband, understood fast. He had heard me and something in him had actually held on to it, and he shouted the one word that mattered, run, and he grabbed for his wife and his in-laws, and he pointed them back down the trail toward the car, a long way back, and they ran. But 4 people can only run as fast as the slowest of them, and the slowest of them were Ada and Frank in their 70s, on a desert trail, with the air full of a thing that does not tire and does not quit. That is the quiet math that makes a swarm so deadly to a group, and it is worth understanding because it is the opposite of what people assume. People think there is safety in numbers, that a group is safer than a person alone. Against most dangers, that is true. Against this one, it can be the reverse, because a group moves at the speed of whoever is slowest, and it does not scatter. Because people who love each other do not scatter. They cluster, they wait, they reach back for each other. And a swarm does not need you to make a mistake. It just needs you to be human, to be unwilling to leave the ones you came with, and it exploits that unwillingness with total indifference, and turns the best thing about a family into the exact reason more than one of them will not make it home. And Paul would not leave them. Of course, he would not. No decent person leaves their family behind and runs for their own life. And I am not going to stand here and tell you he should have, because I do not believe it. And it is not that simple, and it is not my place. He stayed with the 2 who could not move fast, trying to get them along, trying to shield them, and staying with them meant staying in it. And staying in it, with these bees in these numbers, is the thing that runs out the clock. Denise was ahead. Not because she abandoned anyone, because she was fastest, and because Paul had pushed her ahead, had told her to go, to get to the car, and she ran the way he told her to, straight and hard, her shirt over her face, not stopping, exactly the way I had described it at the trailhead, and she made the distance. She reached the car, she got the door open and threw herself in and pulled it shut behind her. And then she was safe. And that was the beginning of the worst part, because being safe in that car meant she was now watching through the glass, and she could not open the door. That is the thing nobody thinks about. Once she was inside, opening that door to let anyone else in would have let the swarm in with them and doomed everyone. And so the only thing that had saved her also made her helpless, sealed her in behind a window, and made her watch the desert she could not run back into. She was 3 people's only hope, and the one thing she could not do was leave that car. I have thought a great deal about what that must have been, and I cannot really hold it. To have done everything right, to have run when she was told to run, to have made the distance her parents could not, to have reached the one safe place in that whole desert, and to discover that reaching it had turned her into a spectator. Every instinct she had was screaming at her to open that door, to go back, to help, and every one of those instincts was wrong because opening the door would only have added a fourth name to the list and saved no one. The car saved her by taking away the one thing she wanted more than her own life, which was the ability to go back out. There is no training for that. There is no piece of advice I could have given her at the trailhead that would have made that survivable to live through. She did the right thing, the only thing, and it has broken her, and I do not know that it should not have. I am not going to walk you through what she watched, and I am not going to put you there, because they were real people, and this channel has a line I will not cross. Help was called and help came. And these are not fast things to reach out on that terrain, and a mass of stings like that does its work quickly. And by the time anyone could get to them, the arithmetic had already finished. The rulings were the stings, massive envenomation, not an allergy, not heat, not a fall. Just the number, the terrible number, of an animal that Frank, an hour before, standing safe at the trailhead, had called just bees. If any of this reached you, do the small thing that carries it to the next family about to walk past a sign. Like this video, so it finds someone at a trailhead instead of a comment section, and subscribe so you are here for the next one. Not for me, and not for a number on a screen. Do it so that one more good, ordinary family somewhere hears a ranger say, run and do not swat and get to the car, and actually keeps it. Files it away where the body can reach it fast and never needs it, or needs it once, and every one of them reaches the car. I have thought about this one more than almost any of them, and here is where it leaves me. There is a specific kind of danger that hides inside the word just. Just bees. Just a lizard. Just a donkey. Just water. It is the word we put in front of a thing to tell ourselves it is small, and it is almost always the word we say right before the thing turns out not to be small at all. Just is not a description of the animal. It is a description of our own attention, of how little of it we have decided to spend, and the desert has a way of collecting in full on every ounce of attention a person decides not to pay. They were not stupid and they were not careless. I want to say that as plainly as I can because the easy version of this makes them fools and they were the opposite. A loving family on a careful trip who did almost everything right. They made exactly one mistake, and it was not out on that trail. It was 2 hours earlier, standing safe in front of a sign, when they were handed the one thing that would have saved all of them, the simple knowledge of what to do, and they let it slide off because it came wrapped in a warning about something as small and familiar and harmless as a bee. The knowledge was free. It weighed nothing. Denise carried it out onto that trail without meaning to. Some scrap of it lodged in her somewhere, and it is the only reason she is alive, and the only reason there was anyone left to tell me what happened to the people she loved. I will tell you who lives through these, because I have seen it, and it is always the same. The ones who live are the ones who already knew, before it started, what to do, so that when the sky came apart, they did not have to think, they just ran. Because the thinking had been done years earlier, on some ordinary day, by a person who bothered to actually keep the warning. I have had hikers do everything right, run straight, cover up, reach shelter, and walk away stung and shaken and completely alive, and every single one of them afterward said some version of the same thing, that they did not decide to do it, they just found themselves already doing it because it was in them. That is the whole difference between a scare and a funeral, and it is decided long before the bees ever show up. Learn the thing before you need it. That is the whole lesson, and it is the cheapest insurance there is, and almost nobody buys it, because the day you would need it always feels like it belongs to somebody else. If bees ever come for you, in numbers, out here, or anywhere in this part of the country, you run straight and hard, you cover your face, you do not swat, and you get inside and shut the door, and you keep running until you are certain you are clear. Say it back to yourself now, while it is easy, while it is boring, while it is just words on an ordinary afternoon. Because out there, it will not be words. It will be the whole sky turned against you, and 3 or 4 seconds to remember, and your body will only be able to reach for what you already knew. Make the right thing the thing it reaches for. That is a decision you get to make right now, today, for free, and it is the only version of this decision you will ever get to make calmly. Only one of them reached the car. She reached it because she ran, and she ran because, somewhere under all of it, she knew to. The other three were just as strong and just as brave and just as loved, and the distance was a little too far, and it was just bees. And just bees was more than enough. She lives now with all of it, the running, the reaching, the glass, and she told me she would trade being the one who made it in a heartbeat. And I believed her, and there was nothing I could say to that because there is nothing. This has been Doomed Departures. Stay safe, and we will see you on the next one.